Hello YouTube, welcome to a building tutorial. Today we're going to look at shape and machine placement. So what I mean by that is how the shape of your building is going to turn out based on building your machines. 'Cause some people like to build their machines first and then build the building around them. And in the next episode we'll look at building the building first and placing the machines after. So the first thing I notice most people doing is this sort of build. So we have our input coming in, we have our manifold into the smelters, manifold out, dedicated lines for what we're making, and then again manifold into the machines, manifold out, dedicated lines to where they're going. Now this is probably one of the most efficient ways to just build something. However, it leaves a couple of problems. One, we have just a rectangle build, and then we have a big square build. And because every machine is placed on a flat surface, because all these foundations are all on one level, you kind of just end up with a cube or a rectangle. And then I've put some walls around to highlight the edge. Now, if we was to look at this and go, okay, so we can't really build a second floor because there's not to build. We've done our machine placement. We're making our, in this case, plates and rods. That's it. So at best, what we could probably do is create some walkways. So I need access to this part to walk around here. So I would probably put one there like this and this way, which gives you that walkway around on the bottom floor, and then your walkway around the top. But like I said, there's no machines to be built upstairs, so there's very little point in doing something like this, but we're just going to do this for now. And then all the way across, so you have a walkway each side, and then there's no way of getting across here without jumping, so we could put one of these in. Maybe not that one there. And we can do the same here, which gives us access to both sides. Another problem we have here is separating them off. If you wanted to separate them off into rooms, you leave yourself very little space. You end up with clipping and things like that. So you're minimizing the amount of room you've got to play with. And if we was to build a wall like this through, for instance, you got your machine inside and maybe put one here. There's very little room to play with things like your aesthetics. You know, this would be up. And you're just leaving yourself with tiny little corridors and no room to move. And because there's no point in a second floor, there's not really much else you can do here. Yeah, you could add little extras coming out, little walkways coming out here, but again, for what? Staircase to a second floor, that doesn't do anything. So your machine placement like this is very effective when it comes to making your parts, but not very effective at creating shape for your build. So what I'm suggesting is play around with your placement of your machines. So if we look here, we've got the same 7 by 11, but then an extra 4 on the end just to give us a bit more space. And I've put my smelters up in the air. No particular reason, I just placed them up there. And that gave me the challenge of belting them up. So now we have something a little bit more interesting to look at. And because it's on a different height, we could quite easily build a second floor up here. I've also sunk the belts into the ground Not again, not for any particular reason, just the machine placement, placing the things at different heights gives you much more possibilities for when it comes to building. Like these machines, your ingots run through the middle and then they are belted upwards to the machines, and then they come back out, go back up the middle, through the middle, and down the other side. It's not needed, but it creates a completely different shape. So what we're doing here is the same as the last one. We're doing rods and plates, exactly the same setup, just built differently. So now we could say, okay, if we wanted to decorate, let's put a pillar here. And we could have our doors at each side as you come into the build. And then we want to get access across, which, because these are sunk in the ground, makes it much easier to do. We could do something like this. Put glass walkways in, you can still see your materials being used, and now we've got full access of this room. And because we've left a lot of space between our machines and as input, we could start playing around in here with things like pillars. We have our walkway in. We could have a little window here, for instance. Same on the other side. So you can go, oh yeah, you can see the materials coming in. You get into this room. You've got access from either side of the build, and now we can have access this way as well. Again, my belts are sunk into the ground, so it's not creating me too many problems. If I want to just build a bridge straight across. From there, we can look at this next part. So let's create ourselves second floor. So now we can build, say, second floor maybe to here. So we can cover this up. We have access down each side. And because we have all this little bit of space here, we could even build our ramps up here as well. See, that could be like a balcony. Could put more here, which can give you then access to this area over here. And now your build's taking on a lot more different shape. You could also decide, oh, well, I don't need certain areas. Or you can change the height of it. So let's talk walls. So if I put a wall all the way across here, so now we have some exterior walls up. We can decide to start separating as build if we want to. So making, like I was saying with the last one, making rooms. And because we've done our machine placement like this, we now have much more room to be able to build aesthetics, things like that. So what I want you to do is I want you to try and start placing your machines in different places. Changing the height of your build, not being on one solid level. There's nothing wrong with you hiding belts underground either. But now that we've looked at that, you can see a huge difference in the shape of the build, and there's more room, etc. Just because I changed the way I place my machines from the standard way that most people build machines, just changing it up and having to play around with how I want to place my machines. And this is going to give you a lot more shape to play with. And it's also going to make your building much more unique than everything else that's being built currently. So with that being said, this is not the way I like to build. I don't like to place my machines first and then build my building. I prefer to build my building and then place my machines, but we'll talk about that in the next episode. So I hope this helps a little bit. Like I said, this is just the first part of shape that we're talking about. I will be doing more episodes on shape and how to change it and how to make it a little more interesting. But that's my little quick tip on machine placement. If you found this useful, give it a thumbs up, maybe subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.